The early bird catches the worm. What if I told you that this age-old adage isn't just a statement about work ethic, but about childhood disabilities and developmental delays? It's the idea of early intervention, and increasingly, medical professionals are saying it's the way to go with developmental delays in childhood. So what is early intervention? And what does the Easter Seals, Eastern Pennsylvania, have to do with it? We're joined today by Mindy McCormick, President and CEO of Easter Seals, Eastern Pennsylvania, to break down those questions and more. That's all coming up right here, right now. I'm Sam Chen, and this is Face the Issues. Good evening and welcome to Face the Issues. I'm Sam Chen. Early intervention is increasingly recommended by medical professionals for childhood disabilities and developmental delays, but there's a lot of question in the general public about what early intervention is and whether it's effective, why it's effective. We're joined today by Mindy McCormick. She's the President and CEO of Easter Seals, Eastern Pennsylvania, and she's going to join us to talk about those questions. Mindy, welcome to Face the Issues.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get into the topic of early intervention, let's just talk about Easter Seals for a hot moment. What is Easter Seals? I think for a lot of people in the public, for me growing up, I remember getting I think it was like stickers from Easter Seals in the mail. And I was 8, so forgive me. But I remember thinking, oh, this is so cool. It's something about the sea animal and Easter, and that could not be further from the truth. So what is Easter Seals for those who don't know?
Yeah, so Easter Seals, particularly Easter Seals Eastern PA, we are part of a national affiliate that works with individuals with disability. It can be from birth all the way through to adults. Nationally, we support veterans and seniors as well. So it's just an opportunity, a place to go for services, any range of services. And
so I know we're going to talk about early intervention today, but Easter Seals serves not just children.
Correct. And Easter Seals Eastern Pennsylvania, we serve the entire lifespan as well. So where you could be coming for early intervention, you could also receive adult services as you get older as well.
Oh, that's great to know. Okay, so let's get into this idea of early intervention. Can you just start with like the 30,000 foot level question here? What is early intervention?
Early intervention is exactly what the name says. It's identifying any deficit or delay that may be possible and providing an intervention at the earliest possible point to sometimes remediate it completely, other times to set up for ongoing services to support that individual to be successful long term.
And what kind of things are we looking for? I guess the question, so let's say you're talking to a new parent and it's, well, is my child delayed? Are they not delayed? Like how, I think sometimes parents might think, oh, my child is delayed, and then they're comparing them to somebody who's has like a 180 natural IQ. It's like, no, your kid's not delayed, right? Like how do parents even begin that conversation?
The most important thing is to take that every pediatrician visit you have with your child as a well visit from the time they're birth, particularly for those first 5 years. You get these questionnaires that say, are they doing this? Are they buttoning? Are they saying one words? When did they start speaking? Are they lifting their head? Those are all indicators of general childhood milestones. Okay. And we want to make sure that you're hitting those milestones at the appropriate time. So there are tons of assessments that are available to do that. Ages and Stages does that. But those questionnaires at your pediatrician, the first 5 minutes of your visit, are really going to provide a lot of answers.
Interesting. So it seems very routine, but what you're saying is that's actually the key.
Yes, that is absolutely the key. And it's being honest. So what we run into is particularly as a parent myself, as a first-time mom, when I was going to the pediatrician, if the doctor asked me, oh, is your son buttoning the button? Oh yeah, he does that. And then I leave and I'm like, watching, does he do that? But I've already missed the opportunity to say, it's not happening the way it's supposed to, or I feel like it's a reflection of me as the parent.
Okay. So what kind of disabilities are we looking at? Are these, I mean, you brought up a few things: when they lift their head, or when are they speaking words? Are these mental, and cognitive? Are these physical, or is it the full range?
It's the full range. We're looking at the cognitive. So with early intervention testing, there are 5 key areas you look at. You're looking at cognitive, you're looking at communication, social, emotional, physical, and adaptive.
Okay.
What are self-care? Can they brush their teeth?
Okay.
Can they feed themselves, hold a cup, things like that.
I'm assuming that's graduated, right? Because you're not going to have a 6-month-old
Exactly.
brushing their teeth. So it's at different points. There's different benchmarks that they should be hitting.
Yes.
And does Easter Seals work with all the different kinds of disabilities as well then?
Yes.
Like not like all 5 areas?
Yes,
Okay.
we do. So what we will do is we provide social emotional support through occupational therapy, which happens in the child's natural environment. That's the
Okay.
best part of
Okay.
early intervention. You're not coming to an office, you're not coming to a school, to a classroom. It's happening where you are on a regular basis, which is incredible. And we'll provide that support. So we will work with the teacher or with the parent or the caregiver, whoever that could be, to provide opportunities for them to engage in social or emotional regulation. So there are tools that we're creating.
For the most children, there's 5 areas. I'm assuming you could have a deficiency in 1 or 2 of the areas and not necessarily all 5, right? It's
Correct.
probably, I'm imagining, I'm not a parent, so you're way out of my world. So I'm imagining that it's different for every child where they might fall in those
Yes.
categories.
Absolutely. So to qualify for official early intervention services, you have to have a 25% deficit in one of those 5
Okay.
areas. If you are not quite at a 25% deficit, the incredible thing about what we do at Easter Seals is we can provide supportive services to
Okay.
help remediate the deficit or continue to monitor to see if it increases to the level of additional support.
Okay. And how do they measure the percentages?
There's testing that's done. There's
Okay.
interactions that happen. It looks like they're playing, but we're really doing an assessment and evaluation
Okay.
of the child's
Yeah, so-
development.
Okay. Talk to me about the challenges that we talk about when someone has a disability, the challenges they face as an adult. Talk to me about the challenges they face as children, whether that's physically, which probably seems a little more obvious, or just even socially, though. Like, what challenges do they face as children, especially if it's not caught early?
I would say the biggest challenge is the transition from a daycare or home setting into the school system.
Okay.
If you have not already received some type of early intervention service and there's a deficit, it's going to be magnified to a level that may feel like it can't be overcome, right? And we have school systems that are really overwhelmed with what's happening and kids that are coming in and some of the deficits, and they're not always able to provide the services that a child may need to be successful. So it creates a larger problem. The earlier we can provide service and that child goes into school with the service already in place, then we do not see kind of the lapse in service.
Does it get worse because it's a different environment? It's a larger environment. Is there a sense of which it compounds the longer it goes?
Sometimes,
Okay.
yes. Sometimes it really can. But what we will also see is something, let's use autism, for example, right? You have a child who maybe is not diagnosed with autism at an early age. They're entering the school system. All of a sudden, the ability in reading comprehension is impacted so much by autism because autism is very black and white.
Okay.
And the further along you progress in school, you need to make predictions. You need to choose how something would end. An individual with autism may not be able to do that. And you're going to see their reading comprehension and their ability to excel in subjects significantly decrease after 3rd grade.
Interesting. So you may not actually see the impact that much until later.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
for
interesting.
some things.
Sure.
Yeah.
What about the families? I mean, the thing about, anytime we have anyone on here, we had the team over at the Raleigh Children's Hospital in here, and their chief of medicine, Nathan Hagstrom, was talking about how childhood illnesses impact the family. What are the challenges that the family has when it comes to something like this?
A lot of times it's just a lack of resources to support them, to help remediate the deficit, right? Everyone wants to see their child be successful and go on to be the next superstar, right? But it's how we support the families with that. And with early intervention, we use a coaching model. So what that means is everything I do with your child in session, I'm going to teach you how to do when I'm not here. We want to work ourselves out of a job.
Interesting. Okay. So what I'm gathering is the work that you all do is not replacing the pediatrician or the parent, but it is very much in partnership with.
Absolutely. Yes.
Do you ever get parents that want you to just replace it and do kind of like, well, here, I'll give my kid you for this time, help fix them, and then, like the once a week or whatever it is?
Yeah, I think it depends. I think at times it can happen for anyone. Where we might see that a little more is where there are multiple children in the home or a lot of additional stressors that are happening for that family, and it's an opportunity for them to not have to worry or focus on that kid for that period of time, right? It's kind of a little bit of a respite or a break.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Last question before we cut the break, and then in the next segment, I want to talk really specifically about early intervention, how it works, and all this stuff. But in the years you've been doing this and working with kids, and what you've seen with kids who get early intervention and then kids who don't, talk to me a little bit about the difference that you see between those, especially you were saying earlier, like at third grade, you start seeing children with autism having that deficit in reading comprehension. Talk to me a little about just the difference that you see between those two groups and how it grows.
I think you can really see that it grows as they get older. If you're constantly playing catch up, if you're constantly 3 steps behind or you're 2 chapters behind, you're never going to finish the book at the same time. But in our school system, we have a very finite, you finish at the same time, whether you're ready or not. And if you're not ready, then what happens, right? We don't have systems in place to support kids who maybe aren't graduating with everybody else because there was a deficit that wasn't caught earlier. We do rely a lot on the schools to continue to monitor and check for deficits. But if we can focus on making sure at this earliest age, we're monitoring those milestones and we understand that milestones they move, they're a moving target. But if we're making sure that our kids are progressing, then we're doing everything we can to set them up for success to finish on time. Yeah,
well, I appreciate you breaking that down for us. We're going to go to the break. When we come back, like I said, I want to focus really on the how and the kind of the dynamics of early intervention. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Watch Lighthouse TV wherever you go. Available on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. You can view our in-house studio productions on demand. Or watch what's on the station right now with our 24/7 live stream. Search Lighthouse TV online on your streaming device or go to our website for more information. Visit lighthousetv.org to stay connected. There you can find out what's currently on the air and coming up, how to watch in your area on cable, satellite, broadcast, or streaming devices. Watch past programs or our live stream. Follow us on social media and learn more about the station, our hosts, and our programming. Lighthouse TV, positively different.
Welcome back to Face the Issues. Mindy, thanks again for being here. Really appreciate
thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time. Let's get into the details with early intervention. We talked about what it is. Let's get into a little bit of how it works. So let me start with this. When we talk early intervention, how early are we talking?
We're talking birth to about 3 years old.
Okay.
From birth to 3 is where early intervention happens intensively. It's happening in the home, it's happening at the daycare center, it's happening with the aunt or the grandparent who's watching the child, it's happening in their natural environment. Then at around 3, we're looking at getting them transitioned into an intermediate unit. We're getting them into that structured school environment to help provide some of that support as well. So it transitions from early intervention at the age of 3 into more of the school setting.
If someone misses that early intervention phase, what happens if, let's say, someone's 3.5, 4 years old, I'm assuming you don't call it late intervention, but what happens if someone comes to you at that point?
Then what we're going to do is we're going to still do an evaluation here at Easter Seals. We are so fortunate that we do pediatric outpatient therapies. So even if the child is older and not participating in early intervention, it doesn't mean that they're not evaluated for speech, OT, or maybe physical therapy, occupational therapy, that kind of thing. We will also work with the parent to work with their pediatrician to make a recommendation and a referral to the county to get them evaluated. So even if they don't qualify and they're too old for early intervention, it doesn't mean that there aren't services available.
Got it. Okay. And then earlier you mentioned the 5 areas that you guys look at and how each of the 5 are different. So I'm assuming early intervention is not one size fits all when you talk about the programming. Can you walk us through what some of the different kinds of programs are? If a parent has their child in early intervention, right? I'm thinking from a parent's perspective now, if they have a child in early intervention, they're going to want to know, what is my child doing? So what can a parent expect that their kid's going to be doing in a program like this?
So it depends on the area of deficit. So there are really 3 main areas that you will receive services, meaning a therapist or a specialist is going to come into your home and provide intervention for that particular thing. So we are providing special instruction. Special instruction really is going to help with some of the cognitive deficits that might be present. It could also work with some of the adaptive, where I talked about maybe brushing their teeth or self-dress, self-care, feeding, those type of things. Then we have an occupational therapist that could be prescribed. The great thing is this is a prescription model. So when you do an evaluation, we determine the level of deficit, we determine the level of intervention needed, and then there's a prescription that's given. So it might be 45 minutes twice a week for 6 months. It could be every day. It could be OT for 30 minutes twice a week, speech therapy that is happening once a month for 40 minutes. Special instruction can happen much more often. So it's all given as a prescription. And then the therapist will come in and provide that support for that time. And it depends on the deficits that came out in the evaluation.
Okay, so you got 2 variables, right? You've got what deficits were shown, which will determine what kind of therapy is used, but also for example, not everybody getting occupational therapy is getting the same thing for the same amount of time either.
They're absolutely getting something completely different.
Oh, wow.
So every child, once they go through that evaluation, has a specialized plan written for them. So the intervention will be very specific to the type of deficit. Now, there are general tools and interventions that are provided, right? So you're going to see those consistent, but the frequency, the duration of how long that takes place, and when they're reevaluated will vary depending on the child.
Okay, I like that. I like this notion that is very much tailored to the individual as opposed to a cookie cutter kind of thing that's done across the board.
Yeah, and we want to make sure it's something that can be adapted and used by the caregiver. We don't want to be going in and this child only receive that therapy for 30 minutes. We want to make sure that it fits in their natural environment, right? If there is let's just say that there are cultural norms when it comes to the type of cup that will be used or utensils that will be used at feeding. We need to make sure that we are providing therapy to allow for that to be successful. And how do we support the parents in making sure they can do that? Are there adaptive spoons or other utensils that are needed that can easily travel with them when they go to a restaurant? Or we want to create opportunities where the child can experience life just like anybody else.
Yeah. No, I'm chuckling in part because I'm just picturing all of my, and I can say this, all of my friends who did not grow up using chopsticks and at a sushi restaurant and dropping the soy sauce and everything everywhere. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness, the poor therapist that has to teach somebody how to use chopsticks.
It's a great opportunity for the therapist and the family.
Yeah, there we go. I like the way you think. And then let's talk about you talked about the benchmarks, right? Like they're going to get reevaluated. How often does that happen?
At an absolute minimum, it's 6 months.
Oh, wow.
At Easter Seals, we're looking to evaluate on certain areas. We're evaluating 30 days, 60 days, 90 days.
In 30
Absolutely.
Days? Oh, wow.
Absolutely.
Okay.
You can see progress, particularly a lot of times it's in those kind of social interactions and how they're starting to engage. You can see a very short term, incredible if you're providing the right tool for a child to be successful, they can start feeding themselves if they have the equipment that makes sense for them, right? So you could see a change in that ability to feed themselves very quickly.
That makes sense.
It's like a light bulb goes off. You're finally given the tool that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to put something together. If you don't have the hammer that's needed to do it, it's going to make it hard to do.
No, that makes sense. And what benchmarks are you looking for, or what benchmarks can parents expect to see?
I guess a lot of it, again, it comes back to what came out of that initial testing. So when those initial evaluations are done, the parents are sitting down and reviewing that entire evaluation, and they're able to see what those goals are. So at each of those kind of touch points where we're doing a reevaluation, we're providing feedback on exactly the progress that they're making. The other great thing about early intervention and what we do at Easter Seals is every family gets a session note after that session is complete. So on there, we're doing progress monitoring, and those goals are being set with the family in conjunction with making sure they're meeting those deficits.
Yeah. Are there ever parents that come in or you talk to at outreach events or whatever it might be that are skeptical? And you had mentioned earlier the idea of, maybe your pediatrician asks you a question, you give the answer, it's not completely truthful. You may or may not be lying on purpose, but even just the idea of, oh my goodness, am I a bad parent if they haven't reached this benchmark? Are there parents who struggle with that, almost the idea of, well, my kid won't need early intervention. My kid is not developmentally delayed. Do you see that?
Yeah.
And what do you say to those parents?
So we do see that. We don't see that with the families that we're providing service to, because they've already made the decision to access service and they want to participate in service. What we will see is when we are working with a daycare or we're working with another provider, they may express some concerns for maybe another child that's at the center and say, I really wish they were getting evaluated. And all we can say is the most important thing is to provide the education and support to the family. So the first piece is understanding what's happening in that family's life that may be beyond the deficit you're seeing in that child, right? If you're only interacting with the child, you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg of what's happening in that household. And there could be other stressors that are much more important at the moment than why they're not putting their shoes on, or why they can't tie their shoes yet, or why it's just easier for me to zip the jacket than to work through getting it because I have 5 minutes to get out the door. We're going to miss the bus and nobody's going to be able to get to where they need to get to, right? So it's really a matter of understanding what's happening in that family as to why they may be resistant. And if you just continue to provide supports when you can and continue to encourage them and let them know that they're doing the best they can and there are other resources available, most times we will see families access services.
Great advice. Last question before we go to the break. I understand it's 100 years now with Easter Seals. That is a long time. Clearly, you have not been the CEO for the last 100 years, but that's a long time. What does that mean for you as the president of the group, but for the organization that you all have been doing this for so long and consistently for so long?
It means that we have been an agency, we have been an organization that has been so centered on providing solutions for individuals with disabilities and their families that we have adapted over the last 100 years to be able to meet the deficits and the challenges that we face today. So how are we moving from providing a place for someone with a disability to live to providing an opportunity for every individual with a disability to live in the community that is where we reside?
Yeah, and I imagine the last 100 years, a lot of things have shifted.
A lot of things.
And you guys have needed to adapt with that.
Absolutely. You see that in our programs. You see that in early intervention would not have existed 40 years ago. You wouldn't have been going into an individual's home and providing therapy services. That child would have been coming to a center or participating in a school where they were getting those services.
That's interesting. Well, first, congratulations on 100 years.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for joining us and for breaking all this down and for everything that you guys do.
Thank you.
Yeah. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Face the Issues is produced and recorded in the studios of Lighthouse TV. Positively different. Watch Lighthouse TV wherever you go. Available on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. You can view our in-house studio productions on demand or watch what's on the station right now with our 24/7 live stream. Search Lighthouse TV online on your streaming device or go to our website, lighthousetv.org, for more information. Lighthouse TV, positively different.
Welcome back to Face the Issues. Mindy, thanks again for joining us, and especially for the work that you and your team do day in and day out. Here on Face the Issues, we like to close out getting to know the guest. We also the guest beyond the talking point. We have issues we work on, but we're all humans beyond the work that we do. And so one of the questions I love to ask, especially with a first-time guest, is like, what's your why? Like, what besides your alarm clock, what gets you out of bed every morning to do the work that you do?
Yeah, I have been so privileged for my entire life, really, to have incredible opportunities to experience the world through different eyes and in different ways. And when I was in high school, I had the opportunity to go on a missions trip through my church to Africa. And I got to spend 2 weeks there. And during that time, we actually were providing instruction to children who were part of a deaf and blind school. And at that moment, it was just kind of this realization of, there is something really awesome that God has created for me to be able to be ears and eyes for someone else and help them to see maybe experience things in a different way. And then as a parent, you know, I have 3 sons, and my middle son is actually on the spectrum. He has autism, and he is just a light beyond anything we could imagine. And it just gives you a different perspective on what it means to be a parent of a child with a disability.
Let me ask you this about the work. I mean, you worked with Salvation Army before coming to Easter Seals. When you think through your career, is there a moment thus far in your career that has brought you the most joy?
My second day at Easter Seals, I was visiting our pediatric outpatient therapy center in Reading, and I was walking around with one of the VPs of programs, and she was explaining things to me, and we were standing in the hall, and I'm gonna get emotional, and we saw there was a little boy that was there for clinic, which literally we started 100 years ago with these clinics. He was getting braces for the first time. They were being fitted, and he put them on, and I got to watch him take his first steps.
Leg
with
braces?
That. Yes,
Oh my
leg
goodness.
braces. And that was when I was like, I'm here, I'm good. Like, it's that moment of like, hold it together.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And how do you top that? Was your second day?
That was my second day.
It was all downhill from the second day. Like,
No, there have been so many opportunities where we have seen kids be so excited to come to camp because they're seeing a friend that they made last summer that they don't see otherwise. There are so many moments that we get to celebrate with our
cool.
consumers.
Well, then let me ask you this last question. Same question, but what's a moment outside of your career that has brought you the most joy thus far in life?
Probably just the birth of all 3 of my boys. I don't think there's a moment that goes beyond that as a parent. Yeah.
Usually I hear with people who are just married, it's their wedding, and then with parents, it's the birth of their kids, and so I totally get that. Well, Mindy, thank you so much for joining us. I mean, this is such an important topic that I think people don't know about, and so I really appreciate you joining us and explaining it, and of course for the work that you and your team do every day. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really our pleasure. My thanks to Mindy McCormick from Easter Seals, Eastern Pennsylvania, for joining us for the work that her and her team do every single day on early intervention. And of course, my thanks to each of you for tuning in, and we hope to see you again right back here next week. Until then, my name is Sam Chen. On behalf of all of us here at Face the Issues, thank you and good night.